Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. Now, as you can see, we're not at HQ today. We've come out and about, just like many of you have too, as life starts to get back to some sort of normality. And we're in sunny Weston, and believe it or not, the tide's in. So absolutely unique. But things are changing quite a lot. And I hope that we can bring some real clarity today to some of the things that the police are facing, but also what you may be facing too. So Andy, is there anything that you want to say before we kick off?
It's nice to be out and about, Sue. I've taken the opportunity to visit two operational stations, one at Almondsbury and one in Bristol on the way here. It's incredibly busy. So last weekend we had, on Saturday alone, 1,199 calls. That's an awful lot. I've come in today, met the officers, they're upbeat, they're positive, responding to reports of crime, arresting offenders, but our cells are full. We've got over 600 outstanding requests for service, we call them logs, on our computer screens. That mean that we're really busy. But the officers are very positive about their work. This gives me a good opportunity to get out, and I'll go to some police stations in Somerset when we finish. But I would say that since the regulations have changed, we have observed very good levels of compliance with the face coverings. And so I would want to take this opportunity to say thank you to the public for being so supportive and actually helping keep the counties that we live in, Bristol and Somerset and Bath and South Gloucestershire, safe. We're experiencing lower levels of COVID infection, thank goodness. And so what I would say is let's keep it that way and everyone do their bit to get through this crisis.
Everyone doing their bit's really important, because we do have to take personal responsibility. You know, I'm really impressed when I go out and about with the number of people who have got face masks on, you know, the vast majority. And that's how we're doing our bit. Otherwise, we've wasted 4 months. So I think that's really positive. So let's talk about some of the questions that the public have asked us. So road safety is an issue that we always come back to, and it can mean different things to different people, whether that is speeding, whether that's using a mobile phone, or just antisocial behaviour driving. So can you tell us a bit about what the road policing unit are doing to ensure that, you know, the safety on our roads?
So I was at one of our road safety units this morning. I was at Almondsbury at the motorway interchange, and talking to them about collisions, tragically where people have lost their lives and serious injuries. What we experienced through lockdown was a complete reduction in that sort of awful activity that we deal with. But what they're saying is that it's resumed. And we're now seeing, and I think we come on to this later, different uses of the road, like car cruises and gatherings, which is causing people upset. So we've got a dedicated team of 55 police officers on our roads policing unit. They were all out and about when I went there this morning, so that was great to see that. And they respond obviously to serious accidents and collisions, deaths and serious injuries. They do a lot of preventative work, and they do some enforcement and education. And they're mainly policing the motorways and major routes, but where we can direct them, they deal with other situations away from the main motorway network.
As you mentioned, we've seen a real increase in car meets. You know, we've had some in Weston as well. So what can local people do when they see a very large gathering of cars? So
we started off talking about COVID and personal responsibility. Actually, road use is something that all of us do in some shape or form. Some of us drive, some use bikes, some pedestrians. So actually it's something where we would want to encourage personal responsibility in terms of how people use the roads. We need to work with the public in cooperation with us. So if they see something that's happening now, a drink driver and some antisocial or dangerous road use, we'd say ring 101. If you're concerned about a problem hotspot, a repeat drink driver, and you want to bring it to our attention, report it on our online reporting system through the website. It's very easy. You can do it on a mobile phone. And we use all of that intelligence to inform and guide particularly our 55 roads policing officers, but also our neighbourhood teams and our patrol officers to target the problems where they're occurring. So please tell us about these problems. If you have any intelligence about a cruise or a gathering, then our best chance is to stop it happening. So we need to know about it in advance. The last few weekends we've planned for many events. We've stopped many, but we do know that some of them have caused a great nuisance to the communities where they occur.
So in fact it's the same guidance as we have for when we've got unlicensed music events, so that if that intervention is really early, that's what's key. Okay, thank you.
And there's also a lot of where we get repeat spots, Cheddar Gorge for example, there is a lot that we can do around prevention, working in partnership with landowners, highways authorities, local authorities, to actually design the problem out. And whilst Cheddar is a repeat problem for this, a beautiful community, beautiful area, but it does attract people who want to use the road, sometimes for antisocial reasons. Last couple of weekends, we have got officers there. They've used legislation under the Antisocial Behaviour Act, Highways Act, dispersal notices. Last weekend, of the Saturday the 1st, they carried out 30 acts of enforcement against the people who didn't decide to go when we asked them to go. So there's things that we can do, but we would love to prevent them, and that's where we work with the landowners and the Highways Agency.
And there is, there's real impact with that partnership working, particularly in Cheddar Gorge, and the amazing impact also of specials about the work that they've done there as well. So let's move on to recruitment. We know that we want to recruit an additional several hundred more officers from the Operation Uplift from the government's funding, and the Constabulary have just launched Be the Difference on the social media. So what would you say to people who are thinking of applying, or what would you say to them about the job of being a police officer?
Well, we're thankfully growing the number of police officers. We plan for over 400 over the next 2.5 years, and there's certainly a possibility, depending on government announcements, it might be more. We're also always recruiting many police staff roles, call handlers, but to be honest with you, jobs and roles that you could only imagine if you had a look at our website. So if you're interested at all in joining over to Somerset Constabulary, say have a look at our website, see what we've got. The role of police officer, I would say, is a job like no other. When you ask people what gives them satisfaction in their profession in lives, most people would say making a difference. And actually what police officers do with police staff every day is protect vulnerable people, catch criminals and bring them to justice, and do something to make this society, our society, the whole of Avon and Somerset, the sort of place that you would want to live. Now, there are not many more meaningful roles than that. So we give you that, but we also give you fantastic teamwork. We know, certainly through the investment that you've supported, Sue, we have cutting edge on a global scale technology to help people do their jobs. So if you're up for that sort of challenge, and it's not easy, but what job that's worth doing is easy, and you're interested in our values, which are caring, the ultimate professional advantage, courage to do the right thing, courage to be brave, learning. Chief Constable, got 33 years experience in policing, I'm still learning that. Those sort of things attract people to jobs. And then inclusion. So what I would say is that this is a job for everyone in the community, because we are everyone's police. So if you're up for a challenge and you think that fits you, then I'd say do have a look at our website and put yourself forward.
And it's a combination, yes, it is a challenge, but amazing opportunities and skills that you'll learn as well. So thank you for that. So just changing the subject, the National Farmers Union made an announcement, having done some research, that rural crime was up 14% in the southwest. And we know, we've talked to farmers friends and families about the impact of rural crime. So what advice can you give and tell us about what the police are doing to tackle this rise in rural crime? So
the NFU made an inference from the claims they'd received on what they believed rural crime to be, and in Avon and Somerset, this police force area, they said it was up 14%, up considerably more in some others in rural communities. That increase is corroborated by our own data, so we're concerned about rural crime, and we have increased the size of our dedicated rural crime team. So we've got a dedicated team that look to carry out prevention, education and enforcement. But that rural crime team also work in partnership with a resource that you asked me to ring fence, which is neighbourhood policing, including PCSOs. We've got 700 officers and PCSOs working in that team. So we've got a very significant group of people who are able to roll up their sleeves and deal with rural crime. We're doing enforcement, including with other neighbouring forces, and I think a couple of weekends ago we made an arrest in Dorset, connection of property that was stolen in in Taunton. So we're working with other forces, and we're conducting warrants across all of our rural communities. What I would say is we know that rural crime can have a big impact on victims because of the isolation. We would encourage farmers to join Farm Watch, people who own and work with horses to join Horse Watch. I would encourage the community to work with us, and we'll ask for information about what's happening and what's concerning people. We'll give advice, but we'll also give information about suspicious vehicle and activities, and ask people to look out for things for us.
Thank you very much. So I hope that you found that interesting. That if you've got any questions, please send in to us so that we have another Facebook Live in September. But I think the real message is always remembering that we are living in challenging and different times at the moment. And you can see from what the Chief Constable has said, that crime is still ongoing. We still have to be careful. But please remember that we live in a very safe area, and we can all do our bit to make it safer. So thank you very much.